Oh, hello. I was pouring my Pepsi. Let that settle. So I have decided to record videos about movie reviews that I want to make note of, and one I will be reviewing is, of course, this year's in this month, really the end of March. Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire. Now, you may have seen the previous Godzilla vs. Kong, which, did bring us back from COVID back in 2021. However, this one has a few unique things that set it apart, as well as determine whether or not it's actually good or worth watching. One thing I would like to address is that when I make recommendations of videos, I do want to suggest Discount Tuesdays for anybody who does not like spending a whole lot of money, like roughly $18 to all the way to $30 on just a movie ticket. Discount Tuesday saves you a significant amount of money, and whatever money you have left to, spend, or if you're willing to spend it, you can buy it on concessions such as popcorn, sliders, chicken tenders, or whatever. Or yeah, candy. I often go to AMC theaters to see all my movies as I'm an A-list member, AMC Stubs A-list, and well, that's pretty much how I saw Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire three times. Now, without further ado, let's get into the video. Now, I also want to note that I have been going through some rather serious issues, other than psychological stress and having to deal with a new job that's rather temporary, but also has given me some income as of late. I have developed a rather weaker right eye. My right eye has always been weak, but this eye is often now blowy because it's a little hazy due to the cornea being affected and inflamed, and now I've also got pink eye, and that's just one of the issues I've been dealing with. Other than having to do things on the fly, I have to attend something in Japantown involving jazz, and which is at 4. So I want to go ahead and make this quick review. So you may, and I'm live streaming this, of course. So you may have been hearing news about it. Every time I open a new tab, just like this, I end up getting some new article. This is because I've been, opening articles and not so much as looking at them, but collecting them, because, they always, uh, Microsoft loans, the AI loans your behavior and therefore wants to give you more, such as this. But just for the sake of my browser memory, I'm not going to open all of these, just a few. But I will be referencing them. One thing I do want to use is the human characters in Godzilla X Kong and the rest of the MonsterVerse are good actually. Now, I did hear somebody actually say that, but I actually thought that they were rather boring. Because it's often said that these human characters are just not needed. That Godzilla stood on his own without any human characters, unless the human characters somehow add to the story. Take Godzilla minus one, for instance. Now, you don't necessarily have to watch it in minus color, which is basically black and white, to understand it. It has a very good Godzilla story. It goes all the way back to kind of it's like a remake of the original Godzilla story about this atomic lizard, gigantic lizard that's destroying Japan and wreaking havoc, and people are running away and all that kind of stuff. And he's a living embodiment of the atomic bomb, referencing back all the way to the 1941 bombing, U.S. bombing, U.S. using an atomic bomb made by Oppenheimer, for those of you who love that movie, to basically wipe out Nagasaki and Hiroshima as revenge against Japan for the Pearl Harbor incident that occurred on December 7th, 1931, otherwise a day that should live in infamy. Now, this Godzilla creates his own day that should live in infamy, at least for the Japanese people, in that whenever he uses his atomic breath or his what I call his mouth Kamehameha wave, that pretty much just creates another atomic bomb, or at least renders the destruction thereof. And this basically makes Godzilla not only a badass, but a serious threat. And in that movie, I'm talking about Godzilla minus one. It was very, very serious. Of course, it was in Japanese, so they had to have English subtitles. But that is like one of the few Japanese movies that actually about the one of the only Japanese movies I've seen within American theaters with subtitles. It's actually my very first Godzilla from the company Toho, that of course in English subtitles but in Japanese, that I've ever seen in theaters or ever seen period. I've never seen any other Godzilla movie that is strictly made by Toho other than Godzilla minus one. Of course I saw that Godzilla 1998 remake, which was basically called Godzilla Kima, Godzilla in name only, or Gino, But this one in particular is was different. Anyway, getting back to Godzilla X Kong, people might wonder where is Godzilla. Well, Godzilla is not even really in this movie a lot. He's just pretty much cameoed, meaning that he's put in a very few amount of cameos or extra roles. Yeah, we see him as a main character, but well, excuse me while I drink my Pepsi. The way he's portrayed, it's like they just sideline him. They put him on the bench a lot. He's shown in a few scenes doing something important that leads up to later, and you see why. But those shots and sequences are so short. There's one moment when he has basically consuming radiation to power up in order to fight another threat, which he will use to charge up even more. So basically, he's charging up consistently for the final showdown with what is called the Scar King, which is basically this. Well, people think he's an orangutan, but it's basically a chimp. He's a red-furred chimp, a ginger chimp, basically. And so this Scar King wants to conquer the surface world, as they call it, which is our version of Earth. He is stuck in Hollow Earth, which is pretty much where Skull Island is. Apparently, a long time ago, he was locked away by Godzilla in a desperate attempt to stop the Scar King and his army. Godzilla almost lost, but he had to basically lock them away, and then Godzilla makes his way to the Super World, which I think he hibernates and is later awakened by Mothra. And that's right, Mothra makes her return. We thought she died in Godzilla uh, King of the Monsters due to the Ghidorah, but apparently she has made her way back because, according to certain research that I have done, the Titan known as Mothra basically reincarnates herself by laying an egg that is a direct copy of her, and that egg later hatches, becomes a larvae, and then later it grows on to be a moth. This is the traditional moth that live like 7 days. You know, a moth, a butterfly, they live for like a limited amount of days. They basically have like a 10-day lifespan to where the larvae first, they eat a bunch of food, primarily leaves. They cocoon themselves for a while, and then they come out a beautiful moth or butterfly. Even though moths may not be as beautiful as butterflies. But anyway, so Mothra makes her return, and I'm trying to find an article that particularly points to Mothra because there was one that was basically the fans. You know, they brought Mothra back strictly for the fans, like the fans of Godzilla, and there was a particular article that I'm now looking for that it is said that. I just can't really find it right now. But anyway, so we have this one that says Godzilla and King Kong have tag teamed their way to another rescue of the worldwide box office, establishing giant ape dominance over a rival empire. That'll be the new Ghostbusters movie, another 2024 sequel that habitually included the word Empire in its title to make it sound more epic. Yeah, there's two movies that have Empire. There's Ghostbusters, the Frozen Empire, which, well, you know. And then you have Godzilla X Kong, the new Empire. In both Empire doesn't really have anything to do with the actual plot of either movie. Now, Empire means that I guess they're gonna have a new empire. You know, I guess there is kind of a new empire at the end of it because we do see King Kong go back to the area where he discovered more members, kind of sort of his species. It's not directly like all gorillas. It's pretty much a mix of gorillas and chimps. But basically, he is the new king because he, of course, kills the Scar King. And I'm not going to really talk about the plot of the movie and what goes on so much as why I think this movie is really not. It's not as great as you would think. I mean, I actually found Godzilla X Kong more appealing when it comes to just screen time alone and the amount of screen time Godzilla himself got. There was three unique fights in that movie: Godzilla vs Kong, 2021. In this one, there's only one little short fight between Godzilla and Kong that's broken up by Mothra when she uses her solar flare to prevent Godzilla from KOing King Kong with his Kamehameha wave or his atomic breath. Also, Mothra is there to kind of make them both realize they need to work together in order to take on the Sky King, and they both war in unison. Yeah, there's a lot of roaring, there's a lot of screaming, there's a lot of monstrous loudness that, you know, apparently Godzilla is not as destructive when he enters a city as he used to be. He basically just damages a bridge and damages a few things. Maybe he's learned to kind of, tidy it down on some of the destructiveness that he often does when he encounters a city. Not to say that for Godzilla -1 though, he pretty much didn't care. He just wiped out whatever. Anyway, so the humans are found to be kind of, well, don't just they all, but they do give a few good uh things that's important. Like for example, they pretty much discover this old civilization known as the, I think, Iwi, and apparently the character, I think her name is, I forgot her name. It's Maya or something. Basically, she's portrayed by a deaf actress, and this very character is. Let me bring up IMDb here. Is unique in that she can heal just fine, the character, but she communicates with people, especially, pardon me while this is loading, especially the character that that is, taking care of her as her adopted mother. They both communicate via sign language. That is Eileen Andrews, played by Rebecca Hall, is Jaya's adoptive mother. Now Jaya is played by Kaylee Otto. Now this, and I've mentioned this before, the actor is deaf. Actress Kaylee Otto is deaf, so she communicates with American Sign Language. However, her character is not really deaf. She just is a telepath, so she senses the uh, thoughts of other people, including her own Iwi people, which they later discover. The Iwi Queen, played by Fowler Chan, and once again, I'm looking at IMDb. That's why I'm going back and forth. She's pretty much kind of like, I guess, she connects with Jaya in a way that lets her know, this, we are your people. Before then, Alan Andrews had thought that Jaya's people, the Iwi, were pretty much extinct at some point, and so she's like the surviving of her, once the sole survivor of her kind. And because they discovered this Iwi people, Eileen just says to her that it's okay if you want to live with your people in this community. You don't have to come back to the surface world. You can live with them. But, of course, we see her before she even says that, this could be your new home. I thought you want to be with them. You can see her struggling to accept the fact that Jaya might want to leave her for the Iwi people. And, she has to deal with that because she's a mother, but she has to understand that these people could provide for her, and, along with, you know, not just food resources, but her culture more than she ever could because they're actually from her culture. And she knows how much it would mean to Jaya. But Jaya, of course, as we could probably predict, says, "You're my home. Wherever you go, I go." Now, we may not be able to predict the actual dialogue, but we know that Jaya is going to basically do something like that. She's not gonna just opt out or completely ghost. I'm not referencing Ghostbusters here. Eileen. She's not gonna like forget about her. I mean, it's not like she's gonna like go live with the Iwi and then have her like her cell phone number or screen time or do some, you know, face chat stuff. She's still gonna live with Eileen. Wherever you go, I go. We already know that, but it just makes that whole thing look pitiful yet rewarding. It's not too bad. Brian Terry Henry plays Bonnie Hayes, which is yet another expedition-based character. His sole job in the movie is not just to provide, also, quite annoyingly, explain every little thing that happens within the movie. For example, there's this unique little water design that goes on, and the water leaks, and it reveals this chamber that leads somewhere else, where they touch this big wob of a portal that, he's like later, this is a unique mechanism that predates modern times or whatever. And from there, you're like, oh my god, he's just gonna keep doing this like every time they discover something. And even there's this moment when they have this whole thing with gravity where they can lift things that they wouldn't otherwise be able to lift, so because they manipulate the gravity of Hollow Earth, they're able to lift these big ass, I don't know, 10-ton bricks or whatever, just because they've manipulated gravity. And he explains it like, oh, it's how they won the city. Now, I understand, like, some people need to understand that one scene, but how does this character know this simply by looking at what they're doing? There's no measurements, there's no prolonged eye exposure of him, like, watching what they're doing before he comes to the conclusion. Maybe within the storyline, within the script, off screen, he was actually watching. We just don't see him acknowledge that until the moment he actually mentions it. Well, this is how they won the city. So that's how it works in movies. But without that knowledge, you're like thinking, how does he know this shit? Just by looking, just by a few seconds of glancing at it. He even does it again, and yet everything's gonna come crashing down because he explains the whole gravity going crazy because the Iwi Queen has evacuated everybody and done this self-destructive thing of their home in order to, well, at least stop the Scar King and his army, if not kill them all completely, giving them time to evacuate and leave and escape. And everything does come crashing down, but I guess, he's kind of setting up for foreshadowing what's going to happen when Godzilla and King Kong, as the trailer depicted, both shows them bolting through the ground and running full on to encounter the Scar King and his army, along with his reptile friend, which is known as, I forgot its name. It's basically an ice monster. It's a lizard that breathes ice, just like Godzilla breathes atomic breath, whatever the fuck that is. Anyway, pardon my language. I'm sorry. Anyway, so you got Dan Stevens. He's gonna be like in two other movies this year, including a scary flick called, I mean, what is the title? Abigail, about some battle with a vampire. You can check out the trailer for that. But Trapple is pretty much his character. He's an Australian. Yes, yes, I said an Australian that happens to not really be funny, not even be charming, but just kind of be there to not only explain things and provide much needed resources. For example, an arm that Kong needs to not just cast his injured, frostbitten arm, but also to make him stronger in a way that would combat Scar King. Yeah, that's why King Kong gets badly hurt by Scar King's lizard ice breathing friend because he's blocking his ice beam attack. But the frost and the ice start to go over to his right arm and basically damage his right arm with frostbite so badly that Kong needs immediate medical attention, given by none other than Trapple. Now, this is after the fact that Trapple actually gives Kong a new tooth because, well, Kong ends up having a bad tooth, which is actually kind of funny because during the beginning we see Kong doing his normal hunting and stuff, and during the fight he apparently, I guess, uses the teeth or whatever and gets injured, and he picks at it and he feels pain, and we see, yeah, the audience can clearly see that that's going to be a problem later, but maybe it'll be fixed, and so Kong meets sorry, Trapple, and Trapple just so happens to have the technology to give him a cap without the need of any like mold or what they call um the fill that goes in your tooth before they put the cap on, or the crown. For example, I should have a disappointment, like the insurance would cover the crown but wouldn't cover the whatever the stuff that goes in between that holds it together. Yeah, he just puts this crown on and just so happens to have the material for his particular tooth out of nowhere. This movie is all about convenience. For example, not only that tooth, but the second medical treatment that Kong needs, which is the major one involving the frostbite, he just so happens to have this glove that fits his right arm. Now, I don't know how the hell they think that what if Kong's arm, what if his left arm was injured? What if instead of holding it like this, his battle axe that he used in Godzilla vs. Kong 2021, what if he was holding it like this, palming with his left arm, and his left arm got frostbitten? What would the left glove be? Some people may wonder that. It just so happens that Trapple has a glove for his right arm. Now, Eileen says that this is part of their project that was shut down. They were trying to make the strongest Titan stronger, I guess by creating a whole bodysuit or whatever. Maybe they were going to give Kong a jetpack. Whenever he jumps, he could just kind of glide and have like a aerial boost as he swings down and punches or something. And maybe makes like a fucking seismic wave with said fist. But this fist is often referred to as a bumblebee fist. That's why it's basically black and yellow like Bumblebee, the character from Transformers, and is therefore thought of as a Bumblebee slash Transformer hand. I mean, I'm not going to lie, the hand is pretty cool, but they could have had some build up as searching for it. But of course, shortcut like writers are. Trapper just so happens to know that it's in Hangar 1 or whatever and goes right to it, and it doesn't even show us him traveling to it. It just shows a brief scene of him briefly flying to it, arriving and opening the door, and then coming back with the hand attached to his vehicle. It doesn't show him attaching it, it just straight up jump cuts. You can look what those are, jump cuts from him being at the door to having it attached to his vehicle, and then he releases it, and automatically the hand says autopilot engaged in that robotic voice. Autopilot engaged. And then it just somehow finds Kong, latches itself to his arm, starts to do all this little binding stuff, and then injects Kong with something like that's equivalent to morphine, and basically is starting to heal his frostbite, as it says, initiating frostbite healing. Like, how do they fucking know? How does the computer, the AI or whatever that runs the damn glove know that it's frostbite? Did Shrapnel just program in it from his vehicle that yes, the condition is frostbite? Inject morphine into it. I don't know. It's just it doesn't show any rational build up here. We're just left to assume, which this actually shows you. Now you may have heard the only way you can know what editing is to actually be able to see it, and you can see it in something that's not really has good editing. Same thing with ADR. The reason why people didn't like Madam Web that just came out in January so much is because you could see the ADR, the fact that it was done so poorly because the lip sync was way off. It's similar to writing. If you could see the writing or you could see gaps in the writing, it's a sign there's not good writing. And a lot of these movies don't have good writing. And Godzilla X Kong is one of them. Uh, so I really need to get going here, but I basically just want to make this as a note that it's not too bad of a movie. If you really are a Godzilla Kong fan, maybe buy one ticket one time, maybe matinee price. If you don't want to do full price, if you want to do full price, I understand that people who are A-list members, like such as me, of course you want to go see it. But other than that, on a discount Tuesday, it's not really a bad idea. You can see it in like Dolby Cinema for about 10 or 12 bucks. See it in regular theaters for about $7. It's not a bad idea. I mean, I'm not going to say that the acting is flat out bad, but even like the character Mikhail, played by Alex Phone, is a typical character. He's yet another Australian that goes from nice or kind of disrespectful to just flat out control freak and dies because of his attitude, I guess. We're happy to see him die because nobody can relate to Mikhail's character at all. It's just a character we just don't care about. Do we even care about Bonnie Hayes or Eileen Andrews or Trapper or Jive for that matter? Is this movie memorable beyond the time that you see it? I mean, you kind of have to watch these movies multiple times, starting all the way back to the first Kong that came out in 2014, I think it was. Uh, I'm sorry, Godzilla came out in 2014, not Kong. Kong came out in 2017, but the very first Godzilla movie that was meant as a remake that came out in 2014, even I want to go back and we watch all these films of the monster universe, what I call the Titan franchise, just to understand it better because there's a lot I actually forgot. I forgot the very first movie. I forgot aspects of the second Godzilla movie. Um, what is it called? The King of Monsters. But I also I do remember Godzilla vs Kong. Don't we remember? I kind of sort of remember Kong Skull Island. I know that from based on research I've done that they made this King Kong to be more bipedal. We see him walking on his hind legs way more than the King Kong of 2006, which was basically an actual gorilla. The motion capture and the performance capture was done by Andy Serkis, who does the motion capture for Caesar and all the other apes in the Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes franchise, but or the Planet of the Apes franchise as well as other things. But I think about this Kong and this Titan franchise slash MonsterVerse is that he is more bipedal than the Kong of 2006 because his legs are just he's basically made to resemble the original King Kong, that shaky King Kong from like the 1940s or 50s, which was the first black and white King Kong that we saw. It just, of course, Skull Island didn't have that original storyline that 2006 King Kong had actually followed. The whole, well, he's discovered on Skull Island, they bring him back for the purpose of amusement, like theatrical stuff on the stage. He escapes, climbs all the way to the cat tower, and then captures the lady that's blonde, and eventually shot down by the plane. And this is, of course, all the other Godzilla stuff, but uh, I'm not even gonna like open that. I can't. I don't know if it's 2005 or 2006, but the Kong I'm referencing is this 2005. This one that looks more actually like a gorilla. I mean, if I were to look at images, you can see that his legs, his hind legs, are like an actual gorilla, are relatively smaller and therefore weaker than, well, you can see how he's walking. The Kong of Skull Island. I mean, yeah, that's just how Yes, he's pretty much going to win on all fours compared to this Kong, which can we can see him winning both on all fours and as well as twos. Anyway, that's all I have for this video. I'm not gonna spend too much time. Um, please go see it and let me know what you think about it in the comments. Please like and subscribe, and thank you so much for watching.